We are going live with Gary White. Here we are again. Gosh, I want to say it's Tuesday. What's it? Tuesday morning in Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee, home of
Tennessee. Hey, it's Tuesday morning in Tennessee. It's Tuesday evening in Perth, West Australia. Let me tell you, it's been a magnificent day today, Gary. I'm from the future. I'm just going to let you know you're going to have a magnificent day today. I've seen it all transpire. It's going to be a great day.
Right on.
So here we are about getting people on the same page again. Gosh, this is session 3. So first session, we talked about human behavior and the process for human behavior and leadership and how we become who we are and how we can use that same process to become even more of what we're capable of becoming in life. And then from a leadership point of view, understanding how to help people become their best, to do their best while in your care and beyond. And then you grilled me on that after some technical issues, which was awesome. And then last week, you laid down the wisdom about effective communication and looking at, obviously different communication styles, how to style flex, understanding what the fears and motivations are of different styles and everything like that. So the leader then can learn how to not only understand their own style, because you need to understand self-awareness being the first thing that you need to understand, but then looking at their team, because you're going to have a whole bunch of, maybe 67% of them might be S's, or 61 or something percent, at least over 60% from memory.
Yeah, 69%. But who's counting, man?
Who's counting? So close. But a majority of people might be S's, but that's still, you'll have your different personality types in the team, and then understanding then how to communicate, because we want to get everybody on the same page. We need to understand that we're all, number one, it's the same process that helps us become who we're capable of. Great. But we're all different as we go through that process.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're all different personality types, different things, different goals, dreams, wishes, hopes, desires, aspirations, even as the leader and the team. So to be able to take all those people and filter them through all that in a way where we do it as a wonderful collective, I guess is segueing into this session we're going to do today, which is really looking at organizational behavior. Because if organizations are just human beings, Gary, it's just made up of human beings, right? We all have a shared common goal. Should the process for organizational behavior be that much different from human behavior if organizations are just made up of a bunch of human beings?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, Dave. There's the connecting piece, but then when you understand the flow, the natural flow of human behavior, then when you understand it, then you can leverage it. And that's what you're bringing to us today. I'm excited about it.
Yes, I'm excited about it too. This is really great. It's been a big day today, so I've been excited and waiting for this as well.
Great.
Yeah, it's lots of things happening at Circle Leadership at the moment, which is really cool and exciting. But let's get into this, Gary. So we're going to talk then about human behavior. I'm going to bring up the Gary whiteboard. I think I'm going to call my whiteboard Gary from now. I'm just going to bring up Gary. All right. So a couple of weeks ago, as we talked about, we went through the process of human behavior. And then what we're going to do today then is look at organizational behavior. It's really important to understand, just for those who may have missed the first session that we did on human behavior, I'm just going to do a very quick refresh of that and then come across to organizational behavior. And Gary is just going to dive in at any time with questions, comments, insights, wisdom as we go through this. So let's just start going back to the process for human behavior, just a very quick refresh. If you look at success, however you choose to define that for yourself, has come from your results. Those results have come from our behaviors. So the way I've behaved or the actions that I've taken, let me just get color in here. Oops. The actions that I've taken which is the way I behave, to drive the results and get the success I may or may not be enjoying in my life. Now, what we know about human behavior is how we think determines how we act. So our attitudes are merely our habits of thinking. They have been conditioned into us through a process of spaced repetition of a bunch of inputs from parents, teachers, media, society, people's opinions that we really valued growing up as young adults and or even in careers, in the early stages of careers, that has caused us to think the way that we do, which causes us to behave the way we do, getting the result and success that we may or may not be enjoying in life right now. And as you know, Gary, and I know that a lot of people have built their lives by default and circumstance rather than by design. But this process can work by design. You may not have had any control of how you were conditioned as a young person growing up in the world, or in your first time in careers, based on the leaders and managers that you may have had around you and the way they've taught you how to treat people in the workplace. But as an adult, as a human being, you have the right now to choose what your inputs are. You don't have to keep the existing thinking or the conditioned thinking you currently have. There's a lot of people out there, and Gary, I'd like your insights on this. That's what they call OPRs, other people's rules, or the fact that all the thinking that we possess has, like all behavior is learned behavior. You know, we're born with the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. All of the behavior is pretty much learned behavior. So all the thinking you currently have, unless you've been by design deciding what you want to think, has sort of accumulated by default. It's kind of like when I said, when you could be just driving along and you're listening to a song on the radio, Gary, and before you're humming along, then you hear it again, then you're, singing a bit of the chorus, and then before you know it, you got the verse, and, after a few more times, you're at the karaoke bar singing it. Now, you never set out to memorize that song, but by default of hearing it over and over and over again, because it was catchy and it got your attention, you ended up owning that song.
Yeah, I think it's a good example, Dave. And I want to go back to something that you said earlier when you said success, however you define that. And then so I wrote down the word definition. I'm taking notes here. I wrote down the word definition. And then as you said default or design, I wrote those out beside the word definition. Because isn't that really what we're talking about here? It's our definitions that we operate by. I mean, it really is. And with the law of relativity plugged into that we can only define relative to what we're aware of. So if we've had this input continually, this is what we're aware of.
Yes.
About 2 months ago, I was working with some leaders, Dave, and they needed to have a crucial conversation with some of their employees. Well, they decided to have it publicly, and it was incredibly rash and harsh. So I had a crucial conversation with them following that. And
you didn't have it in front of everybody, did you?
Oh, no, in private. And that's right, in private. And one of them, and it was amazing. It was amazing. He was completely humble in our conversation. He said, "This is what's been modeled for me. This is how I was raised up with this kind of interaction between the employer and the employee." And so to your point, there's default and design, and I think those definitions, well, however you define success, the beauty, Dave, is you're teaching us in this how we don't have to settle for default.
No,
there is a master design to this.
100%, and you can create whatever that is for you. And also your definition of success. I would challenge people to question what is their definition of success, and why is that how they define success? Like, why is it some people define success based on purely the material possessions or the financial gains they have in life, Gary? Because it's most likely that that's what's been conditioned into them, either by the fact that somebody didn't have it and therefore they struggle, so then they made money a dominant thing in their life, or they've been grilled not time and time again that money is what defines success. Therefore, we believe now that is what success is. And as well as I do, there's some people who earn, I'm not saying minimum wage, but there could be people who earn minimum wage who have the happiest life in the world. And there's how many people who are millionaires and gazillionaires who are miserable.
Yeah.
So
poverty comes in many forms, shapes, and forms, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it sure does. But ask yourself about your definition of success. Is it my definition of success, or is it the definition of success that was given to me? So this is really important to understand. And even as a leader, what is your definition of success as a leader, Gary? Well, if it's role modeled on the people that you've had as leaders in the past, and they were all what we would say not great leaders in the world today, well, that's why I would yell and have a crucial conversation out on the open floor in front of other people, because that's what was modeled to me as what leadership's all about. Yeah. You sacrifice the cow in front of everybody. So everybody knows what happens if you do this.
Yeah.
Right. So this is really important to understand. So this is this whole point of human behavior, and you think, wow, how do we get all these humans to come together, then create an organizational behavioral process? Well, you need to understand that this is why we call this the magic and science behind getting everybody on the same page. You can understand the process, you can understand that the logical makes sense, but if you don't understand the magic and science in the background to this, the psychology, the mindsets, how it all came to be, and what you can do to shift it and change it, and to help others to do that, then you're never going to get everybody on the same page. Which is why we wanted to do it this way and break down that workshop that we did, a couple of months ago now, and really dive deep into each of these different areas to really get into this so people could understand that whilst the process is simple, it's a very simple process, the nuances and the subtleties and the uniqueness of individuals is where the complexity comes in.
Yeah.
Right? And this is
it's really powerful, and I'm you've got me thinking today, Dave. It's really good, and honestly, Dave, this is one of those this design that you have, this magic and science. I remember the first time you showed it to me, and you showed it to me at your normal speed.
Yeah,
passion, the speed of passion.
Yeah,
right. I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff on this buffet. There's a lot of stuff. But the more that I see it, the more application that I find that it has. And it is simple, Dave. It's so simple we can miss it if we're not careful. And so I'm really glad you're taking us through this again today.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And I remember that time, because usually the first time I show it to people, I actually, me, Gary, I have it on the back of my phone, right? So, so I can always have it with me in case I need to go. Well, let me just quickly share with you.
Yeah.
Because you want to understand how important this is as a leader, not just to me, because this is the work that we do in this world, and for you, Gary, but how important this is we carry it on the back of our phone, because this is the magic and science of everything.
Yeah.
Right. This is why. So I can sit down with anybody in the moment. I feel, well, where did those results come from? And I can just take anyone through this whole process, because that's how important this is. If you can master, I said, if I could just teach one thing to people for the rest of my life, it would be this process.
Yeah.
Right. Because this is the key to unlocking everything.
Yeah. It's also, I'm seeing this, not to steal any thunder from where you're taking us.
No,
but I see the word coach. I see the word coach.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, what a coaching outline, man.
So so let's use that as a way to link this back to where we want to go tonight. So let's take a look at this. So I just want to do that little review. By the way, the definition of leadership, which I've outlined here, which I alluded to earlier, which is about helping other people become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work while in your care and beyond. So this is where I got asked, how do I define leadership? And that's where I actually crafted my definition of leadership from, was human behavior. My role as a leader is to help people be their best, to do their best while in my care and beyond. So as we look at this and we move into organizational behavior, Gary, we're going to want to remind everybody that from a leadership point of view, you do not have to have a position or title to demonstrate leadership. So in organization, as we're thinking about organizational behavior, everybody needs to understand this. It's not just the senior leaders or the business owners. Everybody in the organization needs to understand this process for organizational behavior, because any one of us can demonstrate leadership at any time. And the reason why we wanted to create a process for organizational behavior that matched human behavior is because of the other part of the leadership definition, which is when it says in your care and beyond, that means I care about you as a human being first, an employee second. right? And it's so important to understand that I care about you as a human being first and an employee second. So if I don't understand human behavior and I only understand organization behavior, I'm just trying to force the employee to follow the rules here. Otherwise, what I actually want to do is I want to help this human being become the best they can be to do the best work while in my care and beyond, and to create a process where the organization will facilitate that for them collectively, so we can do this as a group so that we can all win together. Can you imagine, Gary, a culture where everybody's lifting everybody up, not one where people are being pushed down?
Yeah.
Can you imagine a culture where a person reaches out their hand to their senior leader of the organization? I was with a large organization on Monday. We were talking about the chief operating officer, and they had a meeting earlier in the morning, Gary. You'd love this. And they were talking, two of the senior leaders showed up to the meeting late. And he said, come on, guys, one of our, core values and things like that, we need to make sure we're, if we're really passionate about the work we're doing, we'd be here on time, we'd be ready to go. And then I showed up for the meeting I had with them at 12:45. And guess who showed up at 12:53? The COO. Now, to his defense, he thought the meeting was at 1, but he walked in, and after speaking to the team about being on time for meetings, he walked in. Now, to his credit, he said, oh, yeah, sorry, guys, I thought the meeting was at 1, and, so I raced to get here. And I know after this morning and the comments that I'd made to you and he went in, sat down, and then we got on with the meeting. But after the meeting finished, he came out, and we talked, had a little bit of a laugh about it and all that. And he said, you know what was disappointing? I said, what was that? And he said that the guys didn't hold me to account when I walked into that meeting. After I'd held them to account in the morning, they didn't feel that they could put their hand out and say, hey, come on, I won't mention his name. Let's just call him Bill. Come on, Bill, for the sake of what we did. We talked this morning. We need you to be leading by example. We need you to show us the way. Right? And he said they didn't. I haven't created a culture yet where they felt safe to be able to do that to me. So that was really good of him.
Yeah.
Because he was disappointed that his team didn't feel they could hold him to account, although he held them to account in the morning for the same reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's great power in this while in your care and beyond. There's and I'm thinking, you talk about that culture of lifting one another up. I think when we can realize the power of inner care and beyond, that Dave, even you're my employer, and yet if we can have a culture that you're also in my care,
that's right.
I have an opportunity to add value to you and care for you, and in caring for you, I'm caring for the greater good of the company. And then here again, what's been modeled for me up till now, right?
Yeah.
So this can take some time, can it?
Oh, absolutely, Gary. And if you look at that situation, like, just because I hold a leadership position or a senior title in the organization does not preclude me from being a human being. Does not preclude me from making mistakes. Does not preclude me from being vulnerable and, authentic, and that I have life challenges too. Yeah. But when a person in your team can put their hand out to you and say, come on, Dave, we need you. We need you to be here. How can we help you? Because sometimes it's up to us to help our leaders be the leaders we need them to be. Yeah. We can't just expect them to do it on their own. We have to be able to put our hands out and help them up to be the leader we need them to be. Yeah. And that is the beautiful thing. So as we go through this process for organizational behavior now, please take all this into context when you're thinking about that. This isn't just for leaders. This is for leadership.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So if we look at let me just get a color here. That'll be great. So if we look at success to a human being. Now, Gary, have you peaked? Are you the best you're ever going to be? That's it? This is the best Gary we're ever going to see in the world today?
Boy, I hope not. I hope I get better.
Right. So even as great as the amazing Gary White is, we know that Gary is capable of far greater. I know I'm capable of far greater. I have not reached the pinnacle of my success. So even though I've looked at who I need to become, I know that I can become more, and then I can become more, and I can become more. I can continue to evolve as a human being. Okay. So no different to an organization. So success to an organization then is mission. It's the fulfillment of mission. Okay. And it is how we have evolved or how we choose to evolve as an organization. And no different to that of human behavior, who does the organization need to become? Now, as we think about mission, now whether we've done it wrong in the past or the way we were doing in the past does not serve us, let's just push that there. But if you look at mission in military terms, a mission is like my son Dylan, he was an infantry soldier with the Canadian military, and they would send his regiment out on a mission, Gary, right? And it would be a period of time. Then they would come back and rest. And then guess what they would do next, Gary?
They go on the next mission.
And on another mission. And then they'd come back and rest, and then they'd send them on another mission. And all those missions would hopefully add up to them winning something, like the war, the battle, or whatever it is, or whatever the cause they were fighting for. So when we think about missions in organizations in the past, we had these 25-year statements that would sit up on the wall, and our mission is this, and it's all this mumbo jumbo about all the things about the business. As we go through this process for organizational behavior, one of the things I also want to help people to understand is that Confucius said, the beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper names. And mission, most people confuse mission and purpose, and sometimes vision, mission, and purpose get interchanged. Most people know what values are, although whether I'd argue whether they're doing them right or not, but most people know what values are. But mission and purpose. So please understand that mission is the next evolution of your business. Right? It is a shorter term thing that leads you towards your greater vision that you'll have of the world. Okay? So you'll have this vision that's out there, which could be kind of like 10 years away, but your mission is pretty much like the next 3 years. Who does your organization need to become in the next 3 years? Much like us as human beings, success to us is who do we need to become? To have the things we want to have in our lives, what were the things we would need to do? What thinking would I need to do that? And bring that down. So we turn and make sure everyone's to understand that mission is who we need to become as an organization. It's what success looks like in the next 3 years. And then the results, of course, well, we use the objectives and key results methodology because it ties into human behavior. So we would sit there and go, well, what are the 6 core objectives which show that we have become that organization? And then we would measure, like, what are the 3 key results that would show that we've achieved each of those things, right? And then when we look at those, Gary, we would talk about, what's the team we would need to have? What's the brand we need to have? What's the clients we need to have? The financials we need to have? The systems and operations, and maybe the industry reputation or relationship we would need to have. So we'll look at mission then is just the next evolution of our business. Who do we need to become in the next 3 years? Your objectives and your key results, then as your results would be, what are those things that we would need to accomplish in those 3 years to show we've become that organization? Behavior to an organization is the same thing then as looking at this here, is the tactics, right? Is the actions that we need to take. What are the things that we need to do to achieve those results? And if you look at the word tactics, the word act is inside tactics. It's the act of the things that we're going to do, right? So it's the actions that we're going to take. How old were you, Gary, when you realized that the word act was inside tactics?
How old am I now? 52? Yeah.
I just saw the look on your face. I'm thinking, he's probably going, I never noticed that before. Right. So much as behavior then. So if we do these things, which should drive these results to achieve these objectives and become this organization that we're capable of becoming. Now, what drives how we behave, Gary, is our values, right? So how we think as an organization determines how we act as an organization. And this is a really important thing. So values are the organizational thinking. And this is what I say to people. Your values are how we think around here. Not telling our team what to think. We're just saying, here's how we think around here. So we got to get really clear on what our values are, because they're there to empower our teams to make smarter decisions, right? So as much as our attitude, the attitude of our organization, then is the habits of thinking of our organization, which is our values. Now, conditioning, as we've talked about through a process of spaced repetition, well, in organizational behavior, it's the same thing, but it's coaching on every single occasion the correct inputs that we want into our team here. So we're going to use the same process through inputs on every single occasion to coach how we think around here, to drive the right behaviors to follow the tactics that are going to achieve the results, achieve the objectives, which means we become the organization we need to become, to fulfill our vision, which is our inspirational picture of the world that's far greater than all of us combined, and something we can't achieve on our own. And now we're following the exact same process for human behavior. But the one thing we didn't talk about in human behavior, which I'm going to talk about here in organizational behavior, is the word motivation. Most, like us as human beings, we need a reason. Isn't that fair, Gary? We need an internal type of reason to get us to do things.
We need a why.
Our why, right? Absolutely, our why. How do you define motivation, Gary? Not what does it look like or feel like. Define motivation for me.
Oh, that which creates movement.
Okay, beautiful. So if you look at the word motivation itself, if I put an E in here and a C in here, it's the motive to take action. It's the reason to do something.
Yeah.
So as a human being, we need to have our own sense of why. If I want to have this picture of success, I really understand why that is. So the motive to take action for an organization is purpose. It's the problem we're passionate about solving in this world. And this is what should engage everybody in the organization. So everybody knows why we come to work every day. I appreciate every individual have their own reasons for coming to work, but why do we all choose to come to this place? So if you look at the process for organizational behavior now, we all have a why. We all know why we're coming to work every single day. Then on every single occasion, we're going to coach through the lens of the values, how we think around here, to empower our team to make smarter decisions, which should drive the right behaviors and allowing us then to get the tactics and the action plans executed on to achieve the results and the objectives of the organization, to fulfill the mission, to take us one step closer to our vision of the world that's far greater than all of us combined. And you have a process now for organizational behavior that matches human behavior. And what you also end up with, which is a beautiful thing, is you now have something that will engage your team. So everybody knows why they're here. You'll have a set of values to empower your teams, like I said, to make smarter decisions. You'll have a mission that involves you and the organization and an inspiring picture of the world. So can you imagine, Gary, as a human being coming to work, having something to believe in, a leader who empowers you to make smarter decisions, so you have someone who believes in you, a leader with a picture of the world that's far greater than all of us combined, a leader that you can believe in, and then understanding what that business is that we're all building together to make all those three things happen.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I've heard it said leaders are repeaters of the vision.
Yes.
There's that continual inflow of inspiration.
Yeah.
And if you take that word inspire, coming from the Latin, where it would be broken down to in spirit, it's really that which gives life. And it's the medical terminology for inhaling is inspiration, right? And in that way, you're giving life to the organization, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, when I ask, me, Dave Clare loves his own definitions of words.
Mm-hmm.
So when we had that chat before, I said, let me give you Dave's definition of that. So for me, inspiration is to breathe spirit into.
Yeah.
So much like you said. So to me, it's like, how do we breathe spirit into? So, purpose is really, like, it's critical, right? So everybody knows why they come to work every single day, Gary, right? But what's the impact? If we came to work every single day for 3,650 days in a row, Gary, for this passionate problem to passionately solve this problem that we're all here for. And we did it with this amazing, unique set of thinking that defined who we are as an organization. And we built this amazing organization in order to start to bring that to reality. We brought that organization into reality to execute on all this sort of stuff. What's the impact of that? And that's what vision is. It's the impact of all that stuff happening. So I know why I've come to work every day. I know how I can make decisions here. I know the business we're building, and I know the impact of all of it in the long run. So it's kind of like the legacy piece.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dave, I'm thinking there's a lot of, and it's been my experience up till now. I think there's a lot of companies that are missing pieces. If you look at this as a structure If you look at
Yes.
this as the four wheels that need to be, all the lug nuts need to be tight on your vehicle, the organization. This is the wheels. I'm thinking there's some lug nuts loose. I'm thinking there's some flat tires. I'm thinking there's some tires missing in a lot of organizations. I think there's leaders, Dave, that to some degree, I'm not sure that they have a clear picture of why they're even there. I think they get into this frenzy of survival, and they're doing the best they know how. So if we go back to what creates results, the behavior, and prior to that, to think they're doing the best that they're aware of. We go back to the definitions, don't we? Right? What's that definition of success? Is that I get through today. I think that's where some of them are at.
Yeah. Success is just getting all the crap done I have to do today and get back home to my family, but the sad part of that is we've conditioned that into people, that we've set this very low bar of success for society or people in the workplace. We've lost sight of how to really capture the spirit of the human being, like the soul and the DNA, and set it on fire. Like, how do we imagine where every single person came to work every single day, Gary, and was excited and pumped to be there and couldn't wait. Because, to me, what keeps you up at night? Your problems when you're thinking about your business is what keeps you up at night. What gets me out of bed in the morning is thinking about how to solve other people's problems. And that's purpose. So when I get up with purpose, guess what? I go to bed with less problems. The more I wake up on purpose, the less I have struggle going to sleep at night, because I'm actually thinking about other people's problems. The more I solve other people's problems, my problems start to disappear. But imagine when I could get there and I can get into this and I go, you know what? I'm actually having some sense of meaning to the work I'm doing. And this is where one of the parts of getting this right in your organization and getting everybody on the same page. We'll just drag this across. I probably have shown this to you before, but you'll get it anyway because you'll know it in a different form. So if we look at this sense of purpose, and I know we're like on time at the moment, but this is important. So if we look at purpose of the organization, why does the organization matter, Gary? So we sit there and we ask people, why does our organization matter? And if we don't understand this impact that we're having and how we're impacting the world, we can understand why we come to work every day. But if we don't understand what the real impact of this work is that we do in the world, it's great to get people motivated to come to work, but how do you sustain it? Well, then we need to see how that matters. But here's the more important part. So then we can help that person go, well, why does your role matter? And all of a sudden you go, wow, so if this is why the organization matters, and I go, well, what's my role in this organization? And why is my role so important in that now? And, so one of the things, we talk about is like, I believe everybody wants their lives to be more meaningful. So it's our job as purpose-driven leaders to give them work that is meaningful, full of meaning. And then the last thing that we want to work on with that person is, why does that matter to you? How does that make you feel, knowing that your work is that important? What does that say for you, to you, about you? How do you feel now about who you are as a person and your contribution to the role that you provide to this organization? And you can see how much you matter, your role matters in the organization and the impact that we do matters. Can you imagine when every single person has a personal connection to the public sense of purpose in the organization? And, we talk about engagement rates in the world today and in organizations. Well, this is how you deepen the levels of engagement. They can be engaged as to, the work we do. This is what the organization does. I work at a really cool organization. It's great. But my work really matters. And boy, it matters to me. Can you imagine we have built an organization, Gary, as amazing as the human beings in it, and we broke down all the stuff and all the things we squashed or pushed down in people over the years and took out of them, and we can actually start to build that back up. And we build up that fire in people's belly that they're excited to come to work and excited to do with the work that they do with people. I get to get up every single day, do the work I love with the people I love doing it with, for the people I love doing it for. I just wish that on everybody.
Yeah. So Dave, if you were going to work with leaders and you were going to help them implement this
Yes.
to, today, or it's nighttime in Australia tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're going to help them. Yeah, you're going to help them implement this.
Yep.
What you just showed on the purpose and your role, and then the you is that how you would explain that to them on how this is how you implement this? This is how you have the coaching conversations to get moving. Is that what that is?
That's one of them. Yeah. So like if they've decided to work with us, apart from getting the roadmap itself, getting that same page built that we need to get the same page done
Right.
for. When I sit down with leaders, say like once we've got all your purpose defined, your values, vision, mission, then we show them how to use. So we have a toolbox, right? Of course,
Right.
but what we call the tool belt. So as a tradesperson, Gary, when you're a tradesperson, you carry things in your tool belt.
Yeah.
And those tools are the ones you're probably going to use most of the time, right?
Right.
Tape measures, your hammer, whatever it is. Then you have a toolbox. And in the toolbox, you go get the bigger tools for specific jobs. So when you talk about implementing this with people, what we do is we make sure that the leadership, they have their tool belt with them. And their tool belt consists of their purpose, their values, their vision, and their mission. Because you need to use these at every single, and like you said, the leader, always is a repeater of the vision. I said, honest, like you have to hold that vision and you have to articulate it forcefully and clearly on every single occasion. Because the way to do that is use that as a reference point as to if we really believe that to be the world, what would we be doing then that we're not doing now? And what of that could we start doing now? And then let's start doing that because we actually bring that organization into reality. We don't go out to become it. We actually bring it into reality every single day. So in your tool belt, one of the things we do is we help the leaders, of course, to understand that in these things, this would be one of the exercises we would take them through. Once they've crystallized their purpose, their values, the first thing would be this. Then we look at their values and how do you lead, live, and love your values every single day? And then how do you then take your vision, and then how do you use your mission, and then how do you start to build that which forms your narrative, and then how do you turn those into decision-making filters for your team? How do you empower your team to start using this? Does it serve our purpose? Yes or no? Will it reject any of our values? Yes or no? Will it help us create the world we see? Does it help us build the business we need to build? And all of a sudden we can get our team to start thinking, here's how we think around here as an organization. So maybe a bit of a long-winded answer, Gary, but it is one of the things that we would teach the leaders on how to take their purpose and get everyone connected. It's the first step for sure. After they've got their roadmap done, after they've got everyone, they've got the same page. How do they get them on the same page? Well, first thing is you start here.
Yeah.
This is the biggest exercise you can do in your team to get everyone on the same page, is get that personal connection to the public sense of purpose.
Yeah. And so this evolution, what's an average evolution of this, Dave? You get everybody on the same page.
Yep.
This business evolution roadmap. What does time wise? If I'm a business owner and I'm like, I need help.
Yep.
What are we talking about? Let's say I've got 100 employees and I've got 10 managers.
Yep.
What's an average time frame? Is there one? Is there an average time frame that, okay, I'm like, Dave, I need this roadmap, I need this clarity, and I need it yesterday.
Yeah. Well, okay. So first thing,
can you help me?
Yeah, it would probably take at least 4 to 6 weeks to develop the roadmap itself.
Yeah.
Once the roadmap's developed, it'd probably take you another 4 to 6 weeks, so we use about 3 months to get everyone to understand the roadmap, right? To start to take ownership like that, and get everyone aligned to the things that are on the roadmap, right? So the first 3 months is about getting the people right. Actually, I'll see if I can. I might bring it up here. Let's see if I can bring this up. Okay, it might be a bit small there. I don't know if I can make this bigger. I was just working on this. Actually, I don't know if I can make that bigger though. It
looks like a hurricane.
Well, kind of. It's like the flywheel concept. I'll see if I can make If I can bring the OneNote up on here. Yeah, I'm just going to, you know what, Margaret, I'll just draw it, Gary.
Okay.
You asked for it. Just remember that.
I asked for it. Yeah.
So I'll just draw it here because this is really important. It shows you how it rolls out, and I'm not sure I can give you exact time frames on it because like how long is a piece of string? Some organizations can roll it out faster, some take a little bit longer. But so
I think it comes down to what the definition of success is sometimes. And
yeah. All right. So if you look at that first 3 months is about getting the people right. Okay. So it's getting the, we'll call it the clarity and alignment is the first 3 months. I'll just give you a rough timeline, right?
Yeah.
So we get everyone on the same page. Everyone understands they can answer all the questions about the business. We have the decision-making filters in place. We've created that clarity and alignment.
Yeah.
Then what we want to do then, of course, is that, color here. Then what we want to be able to do, of course, then is move into what we call the productivity phase. And then in this phase, actually, what we're doing is then creating direction and focus. We've got the roadmap put out. We know what the organization is we're building and what the future looks like, and then what are we focused on? So then we can define all the roles and responsibilities in the organization because, as you'd be well aware, goals dictate structure, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. The current structure we have, we're saying, here's the new organizational goals. And this is a mistake that many organizations make. And I'm sure you've seen this in many organizations yourself, Gary, where they go, okay, we've got these goals. Now they're trying to take their existing structure that achieve the goals they have. They got these new goals and they're trying to make that achieve that now. And the other way to do that is to work longer and harder than we've ever done before, right? Or it creates all the stress and anxiety in the workplace. So what we're challenging people to do is go, well, hang on. If this is the organization we must have, great. What would the structure look like then? What is the structure we have now? How do we transition or transform from this structure to that structure to have that organization? And then define the new roles and responsibilities because we should be hiring people to achieve objectives, not hiring people to do jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we think about going forward, so then that's the productivity phase. And I'm going to sort of highlight this. There's a lot more detail we can go into, but then what we move into here is what we call the performance phase. And this is where leadership really takes a shine, right? This is where accountability and execution happens. We get people executing at a far greater rate. We put in accountability. The accountability is starting to pick up in the organization. Right, so we've got the clarity and alignment of people, get everyone on the same page. Then we've got the direction and focus. We can increase productivity of the organization. Then with that, we can lead into high levels of performance because we have our people right. So if we look at this, what we've now done here, Gary, is we've got our culture right.
Mm-hmm.
We've got our strategy right and aligned. And now we got our leadership humming. And then the last part of this here then is where we go into then profitability. Okay. So then the organization can start to become more profitable. But here's the interesting part. This is where, I guess, if you look at it like a flywheel, I think, what's his name? Jim Collins talks about a flywheel effect.
Mm-hmm.
All that profitability, you can go, guess where that goes, Gary? Goes back into hiring even more people or investing further in your people to bring in more talent, develop the existing talent you have to level up the people in your organization. Mm-hmm. And then guess what that allows you to do, which then allows you to scale your productivity. Then it allows you to then perform at an even higher level, then drives even more profitability.
Mm.
So if you think about the first 12 months, it's getting that 3 months is getting all the people right, the clarity and alignment. Then getting into rolling out to actually starting really to take action on your roadmap in those next 90 days. This is part of what we call our next 90 process, right? So the next 90 days after that is then executing on your strategy, getting the productivity happening, get the direction and focus going on, then really helping leaders to take it to another level of performance, because now we have everyone in alignment in the right roles and responsibilities. Everyone we know who wants to be here is here. We're bringing in the talent that we need. Now let's turn the performance up a notch and let's execute at a higher rate than we ever have before. That's the next 90 days, right? That's the next 90. And then you head toward this, because ultimately, actually, one of the things that we want people to do is to have your best year ever. And your best year ever, though, as an owner of a business, first thing to please understand that what we're talking about here is lifestyle, that you and your team have the best lifestyle that you've ever had. Then culture, then performance, and then profitability. So you have the greatest lifestyle, and your team, if you have the best culture you've ever had in your organization performing at the highest level. Who doesn't want to hang out with a bunch of high performers, Gary?
Right, exactly.
Right? And guess what? It's profitable. And this way you can continually have your best year ever, every year. So I know that's a long answer to, but it's the first 3 months is that, then the next 3 months is that, then there's that. Then you take then you start to get in all the jam, and guess what? Then you reinvest that jam, and then this is how you scale. And this is how you continue to evolve your organization and steadily and progressively increase your capabilities and your capacity for greatness. Because if we look at this, if I was to flip that evolutionary cycle on its side, and you look at this, it's pretty much this. Okay, so as we cycle around, and then we continue to cycle around, and then cycle around, we're basically increasing our capabilities. So our capabilities go this way, and our capacity is this way. So as we increase our capabilities, so does our capacity.
Yeah.
Right? So the whole point of this to get everyone on the same page, and then start to really get this thing moving and cycling, right? And build up that momentum, because the more moments you allow in your organization, Gary, the more learning moments and coaching moments you allow in your organization, the more momentum your organization has. The more momentum it has, the faster it learns, the faster it evolves. So we basically end up increasing our capabilities and thus increasing our capacity.
Yeah. So it becomes self-sustaining to a degree, as long as you continue putting the right fuel.
Yeah.
Just like this, I mean, it looks like a funnel cloud.
Yeah.
Tornadoes have to be fueled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? They only get
happening in the world. We're not be very sensitive of the fact that there's some serious cyclones and things happening in the world right now. And but if you can build a positive whirlwind of success, however we choose to
just the mechanics.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, without a doubt. But if you know, and as you come back to invest in your people, you don't, and the people say like, oh, caught up with the client, I think they're actually probably at the accountability execution stage. It's like, oh, we feel like we've slipped a little bit on the purpose and the values. Not that they've fallen away from it, they just haven't been bringing it. And I said, well, once again, like, this is the steady and progressive increase of your capability. So you've got to embed that as part of our daily routine now, right? Then what do we put on top of that? It's not like, okay, I've done that, get rid of that. Now what do I do? Then get rid of that. I've done that and get rid of that. No, it becomes a natural state for us to talk about purpose, values, vision, and mission. And that needs to be one of the constant states of the things that we're always doing, right? It's not, okay, we've done that, now what? And do the next thing. So even down here, so when you get back up to driving more profitability and being able to invest more in your people and your culture, you're still going to be looking at clarity and alignment and bringing in people on the right things, and then continuing to, deepen that engagement in your organization, doing all these things and making sure that everyone still knows why everything matters to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dave, so now you've got this leader with 10 managers.
Yep.
And what's that activity need to be between the leader and those 10 managers that keeps this process rolling?
What is the activity?
Yeah, the communication the activity between that leader and those 10 managers. what's happening daily between them that keeps all of this going?
Okay, so one, there would be a lot more coaching and less bossing going on in the organization. There'd be more delegating of outcomes, not tasks. So we're getting people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work, right? Apart from running those exercises like the purpose exercise, Gary, values, vision, assuming that they've worked through some of that stuff.
Right.
What they will be doing is one of the most important things that they'll be doing is how do we keep the momentum going? Well, there's one thing they need to do. They need to be having a fast execution meeting every week. So every week we're forcing ourselves to stay focused on what matters most. So let's get into the tactics of stuff. You'll be sitting there going every week, making sure everybody knows that here's the 3 things that matter most in our organization. Here's how we're measuring each of those things. Here's what we're all working on right now. We've delegated all those outcomes. We've done all that. Here's what matters most. So we make sure everyone stays focused. Then the next thing is accountability. And it's not just who's accountable. It's making sure that we have accountability system in place. Right? Mm-hmm. So then we need to make sure we have a systematic approach to accountability. So we have a system where we're actually tracking everything, where everything's there. Because what gets measured gets done. Yeah. Right? So they need to make sure that's happening. Then we make sure that everybody owns their own simple plan, that their tactical plan on how it's going to be done. So when we delegate the outcome, not the task, you tell us how you're going to do this. And step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And then that, of course, feeds the accountability system. And then the last thing is T for transparency, which is making sure everybody can see what everybody's working on. So you should have a meeting every week that's a fast execution meeting, making sure everybody remembers what we're focused on, what the accountabilities are that are established and in place. Everyone should be able to see the simple tactical plans and see everything that's happening. So that every week, anyone can put their hand up and go, Gary, I'm struggling with my objective this week or this month or this quarter. I need help. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that those leaders need to do is have this meeting every week. Because when you have focus, accountability, simplicity, and transparency, you will execute at a far greater rate than you ever have before. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that needs to happen. That keeps the system moving. Yeah. That keeps everything flowing up through here, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is that the leader has to go first. So one of the things that leader must do is look at how are they going to, and I was talking to the leadership team that they're about 6 months in, and they're working on their objectives, key results. And I said, can I just ask a question? How have you evolved as a leader in the last 6 months? And what are you going to do? Because they want to really drive home the next 6 months. What are you doing to become the leader that would drive those things home at that level? Or are you thinking that you're already that leader who can drive that thing home in the next 6 months? Because when we talk about the leader has to go first, Gary, so that when you go first, you create the space and capacity for your team to go further. You know, we talked about this the other time, is where you're here and you think, oh, no, I don't need to. And all of a sudden your team and then there's nowhere to go. So either you start pushing them down, or guess what? They leave. People leave leaders, they don't leave organizations.
Yeah.
So you need to always constantly be evolving. So one of the things you as a leader do, what is your evolution? How are you evolving? And then this is how we keep everybody on track. And then you need to make sure that you're going first. All right. Then there's obviously, we have the toolbox, so there's a whole bunch of tools and lessons they can be learning to help them to do that. But everything that they work through here, as they build these capabilities at each level here, increasing the capacity, it's embedding it into themselves and the organization. It's not, like I said, do it. It's not like set and forget. It's constantly, you're always having purpose conversations. You always have your tool belt with you. And that's a mission conversation. That's a purpose conversation. Those are values conversations. Oh, that's a big vision conversation. You know, I'd love to get your insights, because I'm sure there's things that you would know that, like for me, there's a whole bunch of things. There's too many things to answer in that one question, but the fundamentals are keep everybody on track and evolve yourself as a leader. Those are the 2 things you must do, because the more you become a coach, not a boss, the more space and capacity you create for your team. And we're holding everybody, including ourselves, to this. We'll execute at a far greater rate. That's the whole leadership. That's when you get down to the accountability and execution, this component here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they need to keep doing. They need to keep performing and then keep raising the level of performance. But performance is what we ask from people. Development is what we give to people.
Yeah.
So you you need to develop. That's what I'm saying. Your team need to as well, but you need to, because you both need to lift your performance. Because staying still is not acceptable in today's crazy world.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going
Getting
back to standing
getting
still.
into the process as a leader is actually going to grow you as a leader.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with some managers that were having difficulties with their employees, having difficulty with motivating their employees. And so I just had a coaching conversation with that manager, and just ask a few questions. Have you considered this? Have you thought of this? And so that manager began to implement some of those things and got some good results. And when he came back to me with those results, I said, isn't it amazing that just this process of leading someone else, it grows you as a leader? And I think, Dave, to your point, the leaders need to, have got to be evolving, have got to be getting better.
Yeah.
Is that there's a process for leaders. It's a process that they've got to embrace.
Yeah, 100%.
And, the person that's out in front in the in the Grand Prix races.
Yeah,
That's
you
the
were talking about before. Yeah.
conversations they're having is, how do we get better? How do we get better? How do we get better?
Yeah. Be number one, but think and act like a number two, Gary.
Right.
Yeah, but it is so important. I find it arrogant. The number of business owners that I've spoken to who said, no, I don't need this for me. I need this for my people. And I'm like, why don't you think you need this for you? Well, I own the business. So surely, if they owned their own business, they wouldn't need it either, but they don't own the business. So it's my duty to help them. And, this benevolence and I'm like, we have two not negotiables. One, you have to show that you actually care about the human beings in your organization. And number two, you have to be willing to go first. If you can't demonstrate either of those to us, we won't work with you. I don't care how good you are. That's why I asked you at the beginning. We talked about process for human behavior. Gary, are you the best you're ever going to be? Is this it? You've peaked. No. Great. Then show your team what it looks like to continually strive to become the best version of yourself. We talk about leadership by example. Well, that's what the example is. It's not you picking up a broom and sweeping the floor. Look at me, I'm doing all the dirty work. No, it's you're showing your team, you can do that, but it's showing your team that you're willing to invest in yourself to become the best version of yourself. Because guess what they deserve from you, Gary?
Yeah, the very best.
They deserve your best.
Mm-hmm.
And then those team members, who do they serve, Gary?
They serve one another. I would presume, if I
And
understand
the other people?
Yeah, the customers.
The customers, right?
Yeah.
What do our customers deserve from us, Gary?
The very best, yeah.
So as a leader, I want our clients to have the very best. Well, in order for that to happen, I need to become the best I can so I can be the best for my team. So my team can be the best for our clients because they serve more of our clients than I do. And therefore, our clients deserve our best. But if I'm not willing to, then guess what? We're putting a limit on what's best.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, I've become better. I'm not, that's it. I've become the best I can be. And I'm saying I don't need to be any better, or I don't think I can become any better. Well, guess what? When you're standing on top of the mountain and you're looking around everywhere, there's only one direction you can go. So you need to go first, so their team, and then your team serve your clients, and this is why we need to do it.
Yeah, I think leaders in that category have a values problem, and here's what I mean by that. Here's what I mean. I think they don't value themselves enough.
Yeah.
Because clearly, if you don't see there's any more for you, then you don't value yourself. And I found that those that really have that air, that repulsive air of arrogance. There's not that many people that have that, but we run across some that repulsive air of arrogance. They don't have enough value. They don't value themselves, and so it's kind of it's a false narrative that they're putting on. That they're better than everyone, or they've arrived. They're really trying to convince themselves, and I just think if they could really understand that there is so much more, and it is available to them, I'm going to tell you, when you recognize it's available to you, you really want to go after it.
So interesting. Maybe a lot of those people who don't, like, good human beings, don't get me wrong, they're great. Let's forget the arrogance. The good human beings that are there, they're doing their thing, but maybe they're they've got their position, and therefore now I have the position, and they get the trappings of success of that position. What I call it is that they're and therefore I don't need to, now I hold the position finally, because I've been conditioned to believe that I've been conditioned to get the position. Now I got the position. I don't need the requisition to become more.
And my disposition just is what it is, right?
If that's your supposition. So, but yeah, like the point being is like that sometimes they think, okay, I've made it to here. I've made it. And this mind is like, I've made it. So if I've made it, then I don't need to go any further. And it's almost like I say, I guess when they talk about the glass ceiling that we create for ourselves. And I sometimes think, and because I know I battled with this myself, so I don't think it, I know it, is that sometimes we have a fear of success more so than a fear of failure. That I'm afraid of actually what I'm capable of, rather than afraid of falling down on the way up there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so from a leadership point of view, please understand, Kate, thanks. Thank you, Kate. A little bit of poetry that we just thought we'd put some class and elegance to this as best as Gary Watt and I can. My Canadian trying to do some Southern American accent was probably not, but it sounded poetic and I appreciate it. Thank you, Kate. So I think that we need to be very mindful as leaders that it's so important for us, and this is where it gets back to the beginning, where it's okay to put our hand out. Hey, we need you. So if you're a leader, we need your leader to become the best so that I can be my best. So I have space and capacity so we can give our best to our clients, which deserve our best. Yeah. And be very mindful of that, either conditioned influence that have caused me to think that I've reached it, or that I don't think I can go any higher, or my mind has locked me into a place. My thoughts on mindset, my mind is set. So probably the mindset is that it's a mindset. My mind is set the fact that I've achieved. Thus, therefore, I don't need to invest anymore because I've accomplished. And therefore, we put a limit or a cap on who we are. And then we have people who want to go beyond that, and we're in their way. And all of a sudden, we become the roadblocks. There's an old expression, the cream's at the top of the bottle, but so are the bottlenecks.
Yeah.
And are you the cream, or are you the bottleneck?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that goes again to our definitions of success.
Yeah.
And that word definition comes from the Latin definitus, which means limits. So if we just ponder that for a moment, what I say success is, there's more. Even that is a limit. Even that is a limit. And so again, to your point, there is more. It's available to us. And you talked about, I need you to be the best so that we can grow, so that our customers, can benefit. Every bit of that lends itself to the fact, Dave, that when I get better, I create room for others just to get better.
Yeah.
And what do others really want? To get better and to have better results in their life. And when I can recognize that as a leader, that I'm connected directly to someone else's success, and I will help them achieve that success, then it expands my leadership. Now the ship just gets bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really important. So we'll wrap up there. I just want to share. So then what we're going to talk about next week, to wrap it all up and have dived into all the magic and science of that. And this will lead into that. A lot of the stuff we talked about is, I'll just give a little bit of a sneaky peek. We're going to talk about the roadmap itself. How do you get, what is the same page? What does it look like, Gary? So all these things we talked about, and your beautiful stuff you're talking about there from a leadership point of view, and the definitions of success and everything like that. We're going to get all those things, and this is what the one page looks like. So when we talk about getting everybody on the same page, it used to be a bit of a joke, like, well, show me the page. Like, it's kind of like a metaphor, isn't it? Isn't it just an expression? Well, no, actually, there is the same page. And so we're going to run through all this stuff we talked about over the past 3 weeks and put it into this one page next week and share this with everybody. So please join in on that, because it's going to now, we're putting the form to all the functions that we've talked about. So all the stuff that layers behind underneath that, we've just gone through. Now we're going to show you what it actually looks like in a simple format, because form follows function. So we've talked all about the functions. And when we follow that, the form reveals itself. And this is the form that has revealed itself as the same page, where you and your organization can be able to see all those things. Any last thoughts, Gary, you want to share with the crew on today's organizational behavior? And I mean, it was we did go well beyond, which is awesome, and I was very happy to riff with that. And thank you for asking all those questions.
Hey, listen, it's worth exploring. How do we get people on the same page? Your success, for everybody listening, your success is worth exploring. And so you definitely want to tune in to this next week that Dave's going to share what the same page looks like. We've been talking about how you get everyone on the same page. I've brought some of the magic and science behind how you to create those connections with the people that talks their language so they can understand the same page. And I'm just excited to be on here with you, Dave. And
I am excited to take your interpretation of how you would communicate this then, because we're great. I'm gonna work through how to fill it all in and what all that sort of stuff, and where all the bits and pieces, the org behavior and human behavior all behind it. But I'm really pumped about how the leaders can then leverage that sense of effective communication, because it's almost like creating your own brand story for the, your narrative that you're going to speak. But the first place we need to speak that narrative is from the inside out. And then so as a leader, how do we communicate this to our team? And how do we get everyone to buy into that? And you can do all the tools and everything you want, but if you don't understand the magic of what you do in terms of the effective communication, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. It'll just be a sounding brass and a tinkling cymbal if you can't make it relevant. Yeah,
absolutely. So Gary, thank you, man, so much for today. For Kate and the others who joined us online, thank you so much. Maybe we'll bring a little bit more poetry. Seems people enjoy a little bit of poetry, Gary. So I can. I know you're a lyricist yourself. You've written some amazing songs, so I'm sure you have some poetry that you can bring to this.
Oh, I'll try.
All right, everyone, thank you so much. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Of course, if you watch this after the fact, please put them in the comments. Gary and I will get back onto those. If there's something you liked or something you want more information on, please let us know. Other than that, we will see you all next week. It'll be the opposite times again next week. Sorry, Kate, give one more comment here. Thank you, Kate. You guys are great. Thanks for sharing. I'll try to tune in next week, expecting more poetry. Okay, well, if you're expecting it, Kate, we are ones to deliver. We shall deliver. Damn, now what are we going to do, Gary? All right, thanks, everybody. And my friend Gary, it's always a pleasure, always a treat to be in your presence, man. And hopefully I'll see you before next week, but definitely we'll see you live next week.
Right on. Take care.
See you, man.